Hello, friends! Here's what's coming up on 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered. Kara responds to allegations she lost custody of her son to Guillermo. Plus, Colt kicks Cortney to the curb and goes IG official with his new girl. I'll tell you who she is. And Jasmine is devastated as internet trolls target her baby daughter. No, it is not angry vegans. I have news, cast updates, and recaps from this week's brand new episodes of Happily Ever After and The Other Way, straight ahead. I'm coming to you on a rare Wednesday this week. It just doesn't feel right. We will be back to Tuesdays next week and forevermore. Also, I finally ran into a 90-day influencer in the wild after just last week saying that I never see them out, but I'm a little bit embarrassed at how I reacted. So let's save that for a little later and jump into some news for the week. Like I just mentioned, and I know you all have been salivating to know what is going on between Colt and Cortney. So there has been rumors that he has a new girlfriend. He has been over in Brazil for quite a few weeks and been posting pictures. And now we finally have a photo of him and this new girlfriend. This is confirmed. She posted on her Instagram stories a photo of him very tenderly like kissing her head in an elevator. They clearly are traveling together, having a great time. And so now we know who she is. Colt's new girlfriend is a veterinarian named Diana. So she's probably got some money. That's good considering the fact that we know he has absolutely nothing. And I think that this is really going to make a splash because it's him finally admitting that he and Cortney are over. She has been a little bit more evasive online, and we of course are going to see them and a slew of other couples that I'll mention here in just a little bit on the brand new season of 90 Day Diaries. So the question remains whether Colt is filming right now, and I will keep you all posted on that. Moving on to some more serious news in the world of 90 Day this week. So there was what I'm not even going to call a rumor. There was a clearly fabricated post, a report somewhere that said that Kara had allegedly lost custody of her son to Guillermo. So we have been watching their divorce, their relationship breakdown play out on Happily Ever After. They weren't on this week of the show, but still making quite a splash in the news. Kara did not appreciate these lies being put out on the internet, which is absolutely understandable. And she's been getting a lot of flack for her behavior on their show. People are questioning whether she was cheating, of course. And there is always that longstanding narrative of her social media being all about her career and her singing, her music videos, and Guillermo making his social media about being a dad. So it kind of is natural that somebody would make this up and try to put it out there, but we are too smart to believe such things, and we of course rely on these 90 Day stars to set the record straight, which Kara was happy to do. Here is what she had to say.
First of all, I'm so glad whoever asked this question. This to me, hands down, categorically, is one of the most absurd rumors I've ever heard about my life or my family, and I'm like 6 years on TV now or something. I have custody of my son, and I will always have custody of my son unless I'm dead, if that answers your question. Not only is it crazy because I would actually have to be dead, but it's crazy because he's with me 6 nights a week. Like, it's not even a little bit like he's not with me.
I think, yes, that probably was one of the most absurd rumors ever in this franchise. And if you notice there, she definitely said she has custody of her son 6 nights a week. So I would guess that they are probably still working out the legal aspect of custody. And we don't know much about how their divorce is playing out, whether they filed or not. We are going to learn all of that. But for the time being, it sounds like she is spending the majority of time with her son. But as you probably also guessed, Guillermo seems very involved with his son too, is always posting the two of them going on trips together and spending time with his family. So I think the most important thing to note here is that their son is being well taken care of, probably by the both of them, and he is sleeping at Kara's house 6 nights a week. So now we know, rumor debunked. We also have a complete lineup for who is going to star on the brand new season of 90 Day Diaries. So this premieres in just a couple of days this Friday. I am really excited. When 90 Day Diaries started, they weren't giving us a whole lot, and now the seasons just continue to get juicier and juicier. So here's who we are going to see. Yara and Jovi, which was kind of a surprise since they are also on Happily Ever After right now, Will their storylines coincide? Or is the issue where her mother-in-law brought up them moving back to Louisiana, is that what we're maybe going to see play out? Thais, Patrick, and his brother John will be there as well. I think that's going to end up being a little bit more about John. It looks like he and his fiancé might be having a baby. And of course, I am really questioning how John is going to deal with that. He is not the most mature, responsible, and put together guy. So Natalie will also be seen. What she's got going on, I guess people have been wondering that. She seems like someone who lives perpetually online, and we'll see what she has going on in real life. Anny and Robert are fan favorites too, and we are always appreciate their openness and following them on their journey as parents. A few more couples, Colt and Cortney. So we are going to see whatever the end of their relationship was, which we know went down now because he is in Brazil kissing on another woman. We are going to see it play out. I'm thinking it's him at her parents' house. It's her parents getting frustrated with this freeloader and eventually kicking him out. Which is going to be so much fun to watch. And one more couple, Rob and Sophie. It sort of seemed like producers were against getting Rob and Sophie back together on camera again, because it certainly seemed like it would have happened during Hunt for Love when they both admittedly were still talking to each other. She claims she was supposed to show up on the tell-all. So what was going on between them? Rob has a lot more fans than he did when his storyline was playing out with Sophie on the show. So it'll be really interesting to see if people rally behind him now that we've gotten to know him as a single guy on Hunt for Love. It sort of seems like people are rooting for him more than they ever were. And of course, we always want to know what Sophie is up to. On that note, Saturday night, picture this, y'all. 3 a.m., right outside Caesar's Palace, valet. And I have to admit, I am not someone who is out at 3 a.m. hardly ever, or who spends a lot of time down on the Las Vegas Strip. It's sort of like when you live in New York City, you don't go to Times Square. But I was there, and I'm standing waiting for my Uber with a friend, and saw this group of beautiful young people being led by one of the most gorgeous women I think I've ever seen in real life. But she was tiny, and she was given curvilicious, lacious, hourglass figure for days, big, beautiful curls. Can you guess who it was that I spotted? It was Sophie walking right past me into Caesar's Palace. I knew it was her immediately. I turned around and started to follow her with the intention of saying, "Hi, Sophie. I'm Christy. I host a 90-day podcast. I like to report the truth. If you ever want to set anything straight, please reach out to me. This is my IG. This is the show. And I just want you to know, I come in peace and I support you. I think you're great. Let's take a little photo so I can tell everybody about it on the podcast." So that was my intention for about 2 seconds. And then my phone dinged. Boop. "Your Uber is here. It has arrived." And I turn around, the guy's sitting right there staring at me, waiting for me to get into his car. And the several glasses of Whispering Angel were whispering to me to go home and get into bed, which was the choice that I made. So I turned my little butt right around, got in my Uber, and let Sophie go have her fun. I checked out her IG, and she was in Vegas all weekend. She also hung out with Thais and some of the other cast members. She was having dinner all over the place. It kind of looked to me when I saw her like she was with sort of a promoter type guy, like a slick guy in a white blazer, very young kid who was probably parading her around to the restaurant so she could post photos of the food on IG and all of that. I think she does that quite often here in LA. She is really that girl. She is that 90-day influencer. And I am so embarrassed to admit to you guys that I didn't go and talk to her so that I would have some great story to tell you or some kind of insider dish. And I promise to you, this is my promise, that will never, ever happen again. The next time I see anybody that's even remotely close to related to the 90-day franchise, I will be chasing them down and getting all the scoop. Better story next time, I promise. On that note, let's jump into this week's episode of Happily Ever After with a little recap and lots of context coming from social media that this cast is dropping. So I'm sure you all will not be shocked to hear that I was shocked at the opening scene for this show, Jasmine revealing her baby bump. and one of our rare vegans on the show starts chowing down on some ribs. So we have been very team Jasmine over here on 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered. You know, I'm always saying grace for Jasmine. Let's remember that she is in a postpartum journey, and I just like to stand up for the underdog. And of course, everyone sort of hates her because she doesn't look the greatest right now. But here on 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered, we are doing no more grace for Jasmine. She has railroaded vegans so hard in this scene, and I just have to make sure that you all know out there that there are lots of pregnant vegans that have healthy babies. Some of them raise their kids vegan or they don't. That's a different kind of argument. But there are lots and lots and lots of very healthy pregnant women who do not eat meat, who don't eat dairy, who don't eat eggs. It is very possible to get all the nutrition that you need on a vegan diet. I've been vegan for like 13 or 14 years or something like that. And it really just disappoints me for Jasmine, who should know better. She's been vegan for a long time. She should know better than to perpetuate this incorrect stereotype. And she should know that if she would eat more iron, which you can easily do on a vegan diet, that she wouldn't be craving that meat so hard. So girl, take some Mary Ruth's liquid iron, go back to being vegan, and then I can go back to liking you. Okay, we got to hear from her on this. You guys, I'm going to give her a chance to defend herself. Here is what Jasmine had to say about eating those ribs.
Yes, guys, I ate the ribs after 12 years of not trying anything with animal products. I cannot even put into words like how cravings when you're pregnant make you feel, but that was all I wanted. I wanted to eat meat. I was like salivating like a dog every time I was thinking about it, and Matt was insisting, for so long, and I couldn't resist the temptation because I'm only human. Do I regret it? I never regret anything I do in life because, you know what? I came to this world to be happy, not to be perfect.
Oh, it's so funny that you're malnourished, ho, and you finally lost me. Wow, that just gets my goat. And if any of you all don't believe me, there are tons of vegan influencers who have had babies and shared their entire pregnancy journey. If you are someone who is curious to be vegan or you are pregnant, go please and check that out. There are people, again, that have done it. You don't have to hear it from me, and you don't have to believe it if you don't want to. And Jasmine is not helping. But I might be the only one ragging on Jasmine after this episode because Matt really showed us who he was this week. And he sort of has been giving us the kind of cardboard cutout, like Jasmine's cute guy that just got her pregnant and whatever. He was there for the SCX. Well, now we're learning that he's incredibly emotionally immature. I mean, it's okay to be scared. And it's clear that that's the only place that his emotions are coming from, and where the things that he's saying are all about him being scared. He doesn't know what to do with a girl. He's afraid she'll be spoiled, or he won't know how to interact with her and how to connect with her. Well, then maybe you should be emotionally mature enough to acknowledge that and talk to your partner about it. Read a book, do some research, talk to girl dads, find out a way to make sure that you are going to be a great dad to this girl that you are having. That's what God, or whoever Matt believes, wanted. So I was shocked to see his reaction, and it was really gross. Jasmine is so smart about what she puts out there, what she puts on the show, and what she puts on social media. So I was surprised that she even was giving in to this behavior from Matt, because that just makes it more airable for the show, right? She could have kind of just played it off, been like, oh, I know you're just scared, tee-hee-hee, and the conversation maybe could have ended there. But she had no problem letting the world know that Matt's behavior and his reaction to what should be such a happy announcement was totally crappy. So what happens if they do have more kids in the future? This is something that people have been really wondering. The fans are always criticizing Jasmine, saying that she's got two and a stepkid maybe, that people are convinced she doesn't see. I think that maybe she may be sneaking over to Panama, which isn't that far away, more often than we think. But people have been curious, is she going to have another baby? She was very adamant on the show that she's not doing that. This is Matt's only chance, so he's getting a girl. Well, surprise, surprise, Jasmine changed her tune a little bit online, where someone asked her if she is pregnant again because she posted some confusing photos. You know how she does. That's what she's trying to do. And Jasmine responded and said, no, I am not pregnant yet, but, quote, in the near future that she will be having more kids. And obviously that would seem to be with Matt because that's who she's clearly with, even though she's trying to keep us guessing. So I know a lot of you will not be approving to hear that. So Jasmine is just making it harder and harder to get behind her, even when she is sitting in front of the camera crying, which she does quite often over there on Instagram. So check out this photo. You guys probably know, you've seen that Jasmine entered baby Maddie in like a cute baby contest with a cash prize that Jasmine says she needs for formula, etc. Jasmine was devastated this week to learn that a group of internet trolls was trying to sabotage baby Maddie's chances in this competition. Well, really, this is the kind of thing where fans can go online and vote, and it's a lot of people who don't have a following that are entered in the contest as well. So baby Maddie was doing very well, probably because she's the one who has the mom with the biggest following, who can really promote her. But it probably wouldn't be hard to get a bunch of people to vote for the other baby contestants and ruin baby Maddie's chances. There's a lot of criticism for Jasmine talking about getting her kid in pageants and that kind of a thing. So will internet trolls dash Maddie's chance at her first crown? I guess we will have to wait and see. She's just baiting us all over the place. Jasmine, I think, crying to get some sympathy over whatever she can. And I don't blame her for pointing out that, listen, it's hard. She gets a lot of flack online. People are coming for her pretty hard, even to the point where they were coming for her innocent baby daughter. I get it, but she is not helping when she is posting things like this poll where Jasmine asked her followers just a few days ago what she should call Matt. So I think this is really indicative of what their dynamic is on a day-to-day from what we see or don't see on camera, are these 8 options that she has given fans to vote for. What should she call Matt? Is it her emotional support human, trial version of forever, boyfriend position under review, unofficial +1, or should she call Matt my favorite snack, current favorite, CFO, chief flirting officer, or my weekend subscription? So a lot of sexually charged monikers that Jasmine is suggesting for Matt, and she posted this along with a video of him really kind of humping on her, biting her shoulder right in front of baby Maddie. So I guess we can understand that Jasmine and Matt's relationship started with this sexual chemistry, and I guess that's what they have got still going on. So more power to them. I'm sure Gino loves to see all that on social media, even though he probably claims to have her blocked. Gino seems like the guy who's creeping around with a Finsta like all day long. He was not on this week's episode, but it appears that Gino will be back next week, and this whole idea that he is holding Jasmine's green card over her head is going to start to play out. We will see if Jasmine can get any sympathy from the audience next week. Moving on to a story that got us all talking. Darcey is still over there in Bulgaria with her husband Georgi when her twin sister Stacy and husband Florian arrive with concerns, but there ain't time for that right away. They got to take those horo dance lessons. I really appreciated that we learned some of the culture this week on the show. There was that moment where Georgi explained reading coffee, I guess it is. I've heard of reading tea leaves, but there it was how the coffee grounds kind of sit in your cup that they believe can help tell the future. And we all saw what Georgi saw in that cup, which looked like a rat at the time, but clearly was the future of Darcey throwing all that up after their big wedding that Georgi saw there in his coffee cup. So that was hilarious to me. The ceremony was beautiful and again, kind of enriching. Like we learned that in Bulgaria, kick the bucket is an indication of prosperity, whereas over in the US, kick the bucket means death. So we learned something this week, and those Eastern Europeans are so quiet. I wasn't sure if the producers were really just trying to work that angle and that stereotype by showing Georgi's family just sitting there kind of stone-faced, but as the party progressed, you could see that they're really just a little bit more reserved. I guess there's a lot of alcohol flowing, so who knows how crazy Georgi's family got after they all left. But we finally saw Georgi for the very first time ever, I think, being engaged with Darcey. It seemed like he actually liked her. He was kind of caressing her a little bit. They were sitting close and having fun, almost like he was proud of her. This was a moment where Darcey really shined. She's fun. She is dancing. She is ready to have a good time and is willing to try anything. So in this situation where she is in a wedding ceremony in another country where she doesn't know any of the customs and she's a little bit confused, she was still all in. And I can imagine that that's what was really working for Georgi in this moment, and that's why we saw them really seeming to connect. Or maybe Georgi was just drunk too. I'd like to point out that Darcey was trying not to drink too much, like when they gave her whatever that yellow drink was, which cannot be something that sits well in the tummy. She kind of tried to be like, oh, another one, ooh. And let's not forget that there was a lot of criticism about Darcey's drinking several years ago. Remember, Jessie insulted her for her drinking. It was something that Tom had brought up as well. And there seemed to be a period of time where Darcey was drinking on camera quite a bit. I think that just happens when you're filming and it's part of whatever they're doing for the day. But it got to the point where fans were really noticing, and it was clear that Darcey stopped drinking when she was on camera. We haven't seen her be drunk. There was a little champagne toast right earlier this season, but it hasn't been the focal point of any of her scenes or storylines. But I think that was just unavoidable. In this moment, that's what everybody was doing. It was part of being the bride, drinking the family's wine, and I certainly cannot blame her for, after the night that she had, tossing her cookies right outside. I think Georgi's reaction, it could have been kinder, yes. But he also didn't get angry. He was more making jokes. And I think that his reaction tells us that Darcey does not get throwing up drunk often. You know, he wasn't like, oh, this again, I don't know. So I just wanted to point that out and stand up for Darcey a little bit. She doesn't do this all the time anymore. And it was certainly an engaging scene to watch. Unlike, in contrast, Loren and Yara going to get their hair masks. Loren apologizes because that's the kind of person she is. Yara denies it because that's who she is. And the most important thing that came out of the three couples that we're seeing filmed together storyline this week was Yara inviting Elizabeth and Andrei to Lake Placid in a passion pink faux fur snowsuit that, if this caught your eye, folks, and it certainly did mine, you can get right now on sale. It is 38% off. For a whopping $900, you can have your own Lake Placid passion pink faux fur snowsuit, down from $1,400. So I actually suspected that that snowsuit was not in the store and that Yara just wanted to wear it for the scene and that maybe she had bought it. But that is definitely like a high-end company that makes warm winter clothes that probably was at the kind of store where she was. I'm just wondering if she bought it. And if she did, she's probably kicking herself in the butt because it's on sale now for, $500 off. Let me know if y'all are gonna buy that passion pink snowsuit because I would like to borrow. For my weekends in Minnesota, where I will be going very soon to see my family. What about Julia's parents who are still visiting from Russia? I want to know a little bit more about their dynamic because for two people who've been divorced, and I think she had said a long time ago that they didn't speak, they didn't have a relationship, her parents certainly seem to have been getting along very well on this trip, and that's something that I would definitely ask Julia about. But in this scene, her parents are very concerned about Brandon and Julia's fighting, and I have been concerned too. I want to know what you guys have thought as fans over the years. Julia and Brandon have never broken up, but they have always had what seemed like these huge issues, but it has also seemed like those huge issues only ever come out on camera, right? When they're at the last resort, then she spills something from a million years ago about how she cheated on him early in their relationship. In their previous seasons too, it was like, it's always something. This baby storyline has been going on for a long time, but if they really had this much turmoil in their day-to-day relationship, would they remain together? I don't think so. So I am just always trying to figure out what's really going on between them, and her parents expressing concern, maybe be like, oh, I guess what they saw, they didn't think was so good. But Julia proposing this travel to sort of recharge and all of that, it makes sense to me. It's giving a little bit of Macron and Anthony from The Other Way, which people are like, shouldn't you go to therapy? Shouldn't you try something else before you just go moving around or go travel? But that's something that Julia and Brandon have done a lot. of. Even after they were on Last Resort, they went and traveled for months all around the world. So this is something that they do. And I'm actually thinking that she is not really going to sell her apartment in Russia. I think they'll probably be able to use the money that they're getting paid from this season of the show to go on this trip, but they just can't say that. So she is proposing this selling of the apartment. We'll see if she actually does it. Let's not forget, Julia's got that OnlyFans money flowing in too. So I just don't buy that she would have to do that. And I certainly hope she wouldn't have to, because it is just smart to hang on to that, especially when your relationship does seem to be not on solid ground. Her walking away from Ron and Betty and Brandon was empowering to me to watch. I think that's exactly what she should have done. Julia had seemed to think this through. She had a reason, a solution for how she was feeling, a solution for what was going on in the marriage, and she was saying, listen, I want to go travel, I want to live a little life, and then I'll be comfortable to have a baby and willing to sell my apartment. She had the whole plan. So for Betty to be like, she didn't even think it through, it's like, yes, she did, and there's no arguing with those people, as we know, depending on how many glasses of wine Betty has had, but it's just not possible. So she did just what she should have by turning around and walking away, and we will see if she actually goes to New York without Brandon, which is probably just to the airport to drop her parents off. Like, let's not make that big of a deal, but I'm guessing that Brandon did end up going along, whether we will see it or not. Did you guys notice, though, that we did not see Tigerlily and Adnan on Happily Ever After for the third week in a row? So where are they? I have the answer. Tigerlily and Adnan, along with their baby Zayn, who we know is a year old, are on vacation. Currently, check out these photos of them having fun. They were on the beach with baby Zayn. They're having some mom and dad time too. But the big question here is, are they ever coming back to the show? So I want to point out timing here. Tigerlily and Adnan were on 90 Day Fiancé, the OG series. And it is entirely possible that they were being filmed during the time that the tell-all was filmed and aired. So if you remember, that's the tell-all where Adnan got in a fight with everybody. He was not kind about Tigerlily. He stood his ground. He said all the misogynistic things, and it did not go over well with the fans or with other 90 Day cast members. In addition to that, when the tell-all aired, Adnan really got involved in clapping back at fans online, and he said some things that people were really upset about. So he had all of a sudden wiped his Instagram and stopped clapping back at people around what I think would have been this time of Zayn's age, that felt like it was being mandated by the network. It felt like, from looking at his social media, like TLC had told him, you have to stop. Stop responding to fans, calm down on social media, you need to go away for a while, and then we'll see where we're at from there. So the fact that they clearly stopped filming, but that TLC still had them on the first few episodes of Happily Ever After, means that they probably are back in good standing with the network, and I'm guessing we are going to see them, let's call this, I think, a pause is what this was. Tigerlily and Adnan were put on pause, kind of Bravo Housewives style. Are you guys interested anyway? I think we would really see a different side of Adnan and a different side of their relationship, especially since Tigerlily is dressing very much like she is converted to Islam. There are a lot of questions, and there would be a lot to talk about with them. I think it could be relatable. I think that maybe Adnan could show some likable moments being a dad. I can't believe I'm saying that I actually want to see Tigerlily and Adnan on, but I kind of do. They won't be on next week though. We got a big preview. Listen to this. So the OG three couples may be going to Lake Placid as Loren talks to her friend Noga. Remember, from the very beginning of the season, she's the one who super got into it with Andre. And I'm wondering how much that storyline was supposed to be a whole different series. Maybe couples who have graduated from the series and now they're all hanging out together there in Florida. And I wonder if their friends, i.e. Noga, were supposed to be a bigger part of that. Maybe that's why they have this scene filmed between Loren and Noga, which I think is unnecessary. They already used Noga to freak out at Andre, and that's all we ever saw of her. She didn't end up looking great. So where that's all going, I don't know. And if it's necessary, I guess we'll find out. The big news, though, Gino is going to drop Jasmine's baby bomb on his uncle, Marco. That's the guy who walked Jasmine down the aisle, and he seems like he is really going to be heartbroken over the fact that Jasmine has moved moved on with Matt. She also explains to Matt next week that her dad abandoned her for being a girl. This is something we've never heard from Jasmine, and we don't really know a lot about her backstory growing up. But she says, look, my dad didn't want to have a girl, so I never saw him again. And that is essentially how you're talking about my baby, and I'm worried that you're gonna do the same, which is understandable and relatable. And man, if she pulls me back in, I'm just gonna have to keep playing that scene of her eating them ribs in my head. You will not gonna get me back, Jasmine. What about Julia and Brandon? Does Julia really leave for NYC without him? And Georgi tells Darcey that he is staying in Bulgaria without her. So not really a huge shock, because he hadn't been there in so long, and now when you've got the show paying for it and all of that, and he finally saw his family, I can imagine there was some guilt and some like, don't go, or, you know, when they're filming, like even leaving the wedding ceremony before everyone else, he probably didn't get a ton of quality time to actually spend with his family. So it's understandable that he would want to stay there, but why this huge fight with Darcey? Why be evasive about it? It looked like they were really about to leave, and he just said, nah, I'm gonna stay here. She also mentions money in their fight where they're slamming doors and she's leaving without him. So it looks like any love that we saw between Georgi and Darcey this week is going to be lost next week. So let's jump into the other way, do a little recap. You may have noticed that this week it was only 1 hour and it felt so short. The first two were 2 hours long, and we're used to, of course, Happily Ever After, the Sunday night show, always being 2 hours, but it looks like the other way will be just one, moving on, because Seeking Sister Wife has taken that 2 hour time block. And my goodness, if you all aren't watching that, I am definitely going to be digging into everybody and let you know what's really going on with those couples. I think Seeking Sister Wife is the most unhinged show that has ever aired on TLC. If you've watched previous seasons, you know what I'm talking about. And this season is like exponentially crazier and more unbelievable. Take that 2 hour of time you have now, please, and tune into Seeking Sister Wife so we can talk about that too. But there is plenty of conversation about Macron and Anthony on the other way. They arrive in France and she understandably breaks down. I've talked to you guys about how I really get her whole leaving LA means I'm a failure thing, but fans really are not understanding her online. She says she's getting a lot of the same responses, and she really wants people to know this. Let's watch.
Yeah, it's me again, crying. Talk shit all you want about that. With that episode, I'm just asking you guys, just open your mind a little bit. I said I will never go back to France. I arrived in LA 10 years ago with nothing, not speaking English. I was homeless. I've been through a lot of trauma and a lot of so just stay open, please. You don't know my past. You don't. You know glimpses of my life at the moment of filming. Okay?
So these are some things we haven't heard on the show, and she actually went on and posted several videos, many minutes worth, which are living on Instagram in a stories highlight. So you can go back and watch every second, listen to everything she had to say, but I'm gonna give you the gist. So Macron explains that she and Anthony really did try everything to save their marriage. She says they did go to therapy, they did consider moving to other places in the US, that they did really use moving to France as a last resort. So much so that she claims that she has refused the show before, that she has said no to doing 90 Day Fiancé to producers because she didn't want to move to France. I guess with them already being married, that was sort of the only story that 90 Day would be able to tell. They of course want an influencer and they want a big personality, and they were right with her because she is sparking a lot of conversation, but that would be the only way, is if they could move to France and then be on the other way. Whereas I think a lot of the couples are just filmed all the time and then TLC sticks them into whatever show works for them. But it's different for Macron and Anthony, and so that's really interesting to me that she had already said once, no, I'm not gonna move back to France just to be on TV. She also explains that she is still having this identity crisis and still experiencing symptoms of postpartum. Her son's about 2.5 years old. Macron says she has panic and anxiety attacks that are back worse than ever, and she also mentions suffering from epilepsy narcolepsy. That's interesting and something we haven't heard about. She also explains that Anthony did work. Again, this is part of all the different things that they tried. She says at some points, Anthony even worked 2 jobs, but because these are entry-level jobs and that's all that he can get, he didn't make a whole lot of money. She also brings up the fact that childcare cost them $2,000 a month, even for part-time. So that's why Anthony working just didn't make sense for them. She has a lot of criticism for America, healthcare, expenses, that kind of a thing, and really cites that as one of their reasons for moving back to France, that things are very different there. And most interestingly, everyone listen to this. So Macron explains that she came to the US and was able to stay here because she got a VAWA visa. And that is part of the Violence Against Women Act. It's something that passed many years ago. It's been existent. It's something we've heard about a little bit on 90 Day before. This is something that women can apply for when they have been victims of violence in the United States to be able to stay here. So she explains that that's how she got her visa. It sounds like she was married once before, and Macron also says that she was a victim of sexual assault, not only in the United States when she first came here, but also in France before she left. She recounts what sounds like a very sticky situation where she claims that she was raped by someone that she worked with. And because that person had a wife and family and a top job at the company, she's the one who got fired. So that is a very gnarly, traumatic story. And I think we might be hearing about it on the show because Macron says that she is talking about these things that happened to her with producers. I'm really wondering if they'll touch on that at some point, if for no other reason than just to make her a little bit more sympathetic, because people are really not relating to her at all. Who we are loving though is Johnny, one half of Johnny and Chloe, who isn't getting quite as much love. Big news here. Did you guys see this? So an eagle-eyed fan noticed after watching Johnny the last couple weeks that he has actually appeared on 90 Day before. So way back on an episode of The Single Life, if you guys remember Tanya from Tanya and Sinjin, after they got divorced, she was on The Single Life and she was vacationing in Aruba and went to a party at Johnny's house. There's video footage of her there, of him and her together. So did Tanya and Johnny get to be very good friends when she met him there? Did they possibly even hook up? Well, you know, I'm not one to speculate too hard, but listen, when this news initially broke this week that Johnny and Tanya had a past, they were following each other on Instagram. And they both do follow quite a bit of people, a few thousand or whatever. But now, since the news broke, neither Tanya or Johnny are following each other. So is it because once fans noticed this, then Chloe noticed too and she got jealous? Did Chloe maybe not know about Johnny's history with Tanya? Or did Johnny and Tanya both just not want fans to make any kind of inference and just sort of are washing their hands of their connection to each other? I'm guessing we are going to get the answers to that. But for now, it just looks shady and very, very curious. It also makes sense when Johnny tells us this. So he claimed this week that he actually has turned the show down before, just like Macron says. He didn't want to do it. And that makes a lot of sense because if producers talked to him when Tanya was at his house partying and said, oh, hey, what are you doing? Who are you? What's up with you? Maybe he had his other relationship with the other woman from the US, or he was with Chloe already, or something where they were like, this guy is dating American women and we can probably tell his story on one of our spinoffs. That makes a lot of sense. So I believe him when he says that he has turned the show down before. And maybe he just wasn't in the right frame of mind then. On this week's episode, he recounts losing his mother and being cheated on in the past, that he was really in a dark place for a long time, and that Chloe was the one that really pulled him out of it. She was his first relationship after losing his mom. I think that maybe they are making him really sympathetic, making Johnny super likable because Chloe is so hard to watch. And there's something about the contrast there. I mean, their reunion at the airport went exactly as expected, right? He's got flowers and is happy to see her and she's complaining about everything. I'm concerned concerned that they might be making her too annoying. I wouldn't even blame her for wanting a silk pillowcase and some hot water. Anybody American can understand that, but it's just too much now. It's just too much, too far, and I'm wondering if it is an indication of what ultimately happens in their relationship. The fact that producers thought that Johnny was so interesting even years ago and wanted him on the show is really an indication of how we're gonna keep seeing him, I think, being played in a favorable light. Someone who is not looking so good though is Luke. He reveals that he is actually blocked by Madeline at this point where he's getting ready to go over and marry her, and that it all has to do with this property that he's never going to buy anyway. So he plans to build this boutique hotel in Medellin, and Madeline wants her name to be on the property as well. Understandable. She clearly is thinking right with her buying that apartment too that she was investing in. She is trying to make sure that she gets what he is promising her out of this relationship. Whether you think that's sort of gold digging or not, or it's just her expecting him to follow through on what he says, I give her a lot of credit. But again, I don't think he's ever even going to buy this property, so what are we fighting about? Oh, we're fighting about the infidelity issues. That's right. He also mentions that Madeline had said the other boyfriends have infidelity issues. And so that's why she's got to keep such a tight leash on Luke and make sure that they're getting married and that everything is down in paper. Well, Luke, you both have infidelity issues, both Madeline and Luke, and I think blaming it on their friends and your friends' boyfriends is just not quite fair. How is Luke such a hot mess when his dad gives such good advice and gives him $3K? It seems like he could have had some great guidance growing up and like he really has a supportive family system. So what is going on there? I can't figure it out, but I'll be happy to see more of Luke's dad in a couple weeks when they come over for the wedding, which may or may not happen. But if you were wondering whether Madeline won that pageant she was preparing for in the first episode of the show, I have some good news. Madeline was the big winner. Here she is with her crown and sash. She is now the reigning queen of Latin Fashion Week. And she was thanking God for, quote, fulfilling one more dream. Ugh, it's Madeline's world and we are all just living in it, honey. It certainly isn't Jenny's world. Jenny and Sumit are having their usual problems, trying to make money, trying to get it all together, which again, I don't really understand, but we get a little bit of explanation. I was wondering, why doesn't Sumit have a job? I'm sure you were too. They kind of played it off at the beginning like, oh, he lost his job. But remember last time we saw them on 90 Day Diaries, he was trying to be a chef and he was trying already, focusing on opening his own place. So there was some discrepancies there in their story, which we got our answers to this week when meeting his friend Rohit. So Rohit apparently is the reason that Sumit doesn't have a job, because Sumit was working for him and then Rohit closed down his cafe. Imagine this. Rohit has a little bit different story where he says that Sumit blamed Jenny for not showing up to work, which I believe 120%. I am taking Rohit's side on this one. Can you not just see Sumit, who has really shown us a lot of cowardice and a weird relationship with the truth in the past, that he would just be like, yeah, Jenny won't let me come to work. Oh, he's such a coward, you guys. I don't like to call names, and I know last week I said he has idiot tendencies. How out of all these people who are showing us terrible behavior, how Sumit has like landed on my radar so hard? I don't know. Sorry, Sumit. I hope you redeem yourself later in this season, but also they're not addressing how they are going to fit this equipment that they're trying to buy from his friend into that tiny space. So we probably got to plan a little bit. That seemed to be the problem before. We weren't planning. And also $400 for the cost of the equipment is probably 1 week of Jenny's pension. Like, why are they so poor? Especially if they've moved in with his parents and all of that now. My guess is because they are still paying rent on that fancy apartment, that they do still have that, and all the moving in and all that was just for a storyline. We are going to keep watching with a sharp eye and judging and finding out what was the truth. Oh, we gotta get to the truth on this next one too. Greta, our other 90-day vegan who is disappointing me, says that she loves Hazel more than she loves her fiance Matthew. But clearly that is not the case, because she is leaving her cat Hazel. The biggest thing here is that like last week she even made it sound like maybe she would be able to bring the cat eventually when they get their own apartment, but it is very clear that Matthew has no intention of moving out of his parents' house. Did you all catch on to this too? It seems like he likes it there. And we have seen this storyline play out a million times. Like, yeah, he lives with his parents and we're going to get our own place. Do they ever get their own place? Colt and Debbie, look, Colt still doesn't have a house to live in, okay? Joan and what's his name? I'm guessing they're still living with mom, even though Joan started this really cute new business where she sells crocheted stuff. I think I'm gonna get a top to wear on camera. But anyway, back to Greta and Matthew. I don't think they're gonna have their own apartment anytime close after her moving there. So she better get used to this whole fridge situation. And I gotta tell, while I've been on my vegan soapbox anyway, I will continue to criticize the other vegans because y'all don't want to hear me criticize carnivores anyway. But Greta, healthy vegans do not even need a fridge. Eat your fruits and your veggies. You have to get over it if you're going to maintain your veganism. You just have to get over it. There is meat in the world. There are people that eat meat. You are living with carnivores. Like, deal. But Greta had a friend, allegedly, I gotta be careful with this. So allegedly a friend of Greta has been defending her online this week. So take this with a grain of salt. There is no evidence at all that this post came from someone who actually knows Greta, but it's a lot of details. And if it didn't come from a friend of Greta's, it may have come from Greta herself. This person says she is one of the members of Greta's Wives Club and that Greta agreed to take Hazel in about 2 years ago to get this poor kitty out of a tough situation. The friend points out the show was edited to suggest that Greta has had Hazel for all the 10 plus years of her life, but this person says that's just not the case. They claim that Greta did a lot of research and prep to potentially bring Hazel with her to the UK, but that would have been very traumatizing for an elderly cat, and that's the last thing that Greta would have wanted, which is why the whole situation came from, they say, Greta putting Hazel's quality of life above her own feelings. That's an interesting way to put it. I guess I understand what they're saying. This person goes on to say that Greta placed Hazel with some fellow animal lovers and that she keeps in close contact with them and with Hazel, and that rehoming Hazel was so hard for Greta. It wasn't a decision she took lightly, which is how the show makes it look. This person wraps up by saying Greta is the best and that Hazel is a very happy kitty. I really, really hope that is the case. I hope that every word of that is true, and it did make me soften on Greta a little bit, but this just wasn't the week to be a 90-day vegan because y'all are looking like a whole bunch of hypocrites, which is the problem that vegans usually have with the carnivores, right? It's like you guys all say you love animals and then you eat them. Well, look at some of us being just as bad. So I will give all of you guys that. What is gonna go down next week on The Other Way? Chloe, the spoiled child, the spoiled tries to boil eggs. We'll see how that goes. And you know, this was another thing. It's like, yeah, when I was Chloe's age, I was also scared of the stove. I didn't know how to make anything. But why is she just so annoying about it? Greta will say goodbye to Hazel. That I'm sure will be very hard to watch, undoubtedly. Macone and Anthony are going to struggle on their first night in France. Luke and Madeline may have to cancel their wedding because they can't pay for it. Shocker. See how that plays out. And that is just more evidence to me that Madeline doesn't really have money from her salon and that she is actually counting on the money that Luke promises her from being on the show. So he's probably being paid because the show is based in America and Madeline probably isn't. And just like we've heard in a lot of situations with the 90-day folks, the American tells them, well, we're on there as a couple. This is both of our money. I'm going to split half of it with you. So it sort of seems like Madeline is thinking about this ghost bag, right, that's out there waiting for her when the show ends, and she's just going to count on Luke to give her half of it, and she's wondering what he's doing with his half over here because he is not paying for the wedding. Obviously, if her salon was making a ton of cash, she would have been putting that towards the wedding because it sounds like the wedding is very important to her. So probably no helicopter for Madeline, but we will definitely be watching to find out. And don't forget to watch 90-Day Diaries on Friday as well. Set your DVR or whatever they say there on the television. And don't forget to subscribe right here to my channel, Christy Reports. If you are watching on YouTube, that's where you get all the receipts. I show you all the posts, the videos, the pictures, like Colt and his new girlfriend, Diana, everything you gotta see. So be sure to subscribe. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. I will be back next Tuesday and we are gonna stick to Tuesdays. I had to try something new this week and I thought maybe there might be some more news that might shake out or that people would have had more time to watch the episodes of the show, but I don't like to wait to do it. I love this too much and I will be coming to you on Tuesdays for the rest of forever. So thank you so much for watching and don't forget to poke around on my channel, watch my other videos. I have a really juicy one on some of the most memorable couples from The Other Way, current updates on them that you are not going to believe, and that's going to drop in 3 days. So turn on those notifications and come back next week for more 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered. If you can think of a way for me to cover Seeking Sister Wives that you would watch every week, or you've got questions about that, make sure you reach out to me too. I am at Christy Reports, and I so appreciate you. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.